Right. We'll call this meeting of the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County to order. You have the agenda before you. Looks like we have a quorum. We have Randy Holloway is remote. Randy, can you hear us?
I got you.
Right, good deal. All right, first item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Do I hear a motion to do so?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion? Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. All right, unfinished business. You have the minutes from the July 16th meeting in your packets. What's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. All right, we'll roll on to new business. Robin, floor is yours with a personnel policy change.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Section 6.3, leave without pay exclusion of family medical leave. The verbiage in the third paragraph, we need to change. WSACC continues to pay for the health, dental, life insurance, and long-term disability. We need to strike the 401k contribution to the 401k. We need to strike that from the policy and not continue to do that as our calculation and how we pay that 4% change due to the plan guidelines, the state plan guidelines. So we need to strike that, please. So I would ask the board to approve updating 6.3, leave without pay, exclusion of family medical leave and personnel policy.
Questions for Robin on this topic? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the changes to section 6.3, leave without pay? Motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, Robin. All right, Chad, we've got a resolution to discuss.
Yes, this resolution, most of you probably are aware or have at least heard of the Yadkin PD Water Management Group. I know Concord, Kannapolis are active on that. And WSACC has been as well. This was a formality that the management group had requested that all of its member organizations for their governing boards to adopt resolutions just to kind of officially recognize that. Within it, a little bit about the Yadkin PD. It is a group of 18 governmental public utilities that work collaboratively and I think pretty efficiently to try to not lobby, I don't know if lobby is the right word, but to study and to present a united front on addressing concerns within the watershed basin. We currently contribute $2,500 a year to that management group, so it is a pretty small commitment on our part, but this does focus much more on the water side of things than the wastewater, so we have less of a impact on us through that. So this just basically just formalizes that we do want to continue our membership with this group, and that I'll be the designated one to select a member representative to continue to represent us on that. So any questions on that? If not, I would request the board to approve the resolution as presented.
Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Second that motion.
Got a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carried. All right, Thomas, give us a CIP update.
Yes, sir. Pull up the presentation. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's been a couple months since we've done a summary of our CIP projects and where they stand. So just bring that back to you tonight. There we go. Okay. And so there are a number of efforts. We'll start with the treatment plant expansion, work through a couple of collection system projects, one collection system rehab project, and a couple of studies that are still ongoing as well. And so Rocky River expansion with all of the really small text here and a few pictures to the side. Over the past couple months, really, we have completed and commissioned Aeration Basin 5. And so we've got a series of 3 different aeration basins that we are doing modifications to as part of the phase 4 work. This was the first one of that phase 4 work to come into play and to be commissioned in its new state at the plant. So that was a great milestone. We've tied in and commissioned all of the new RAS pump stations. We don't have RAS pump stations 1 and 2 for reasons unknown. But they're all done and those are tied in, so we celebrate that as well. The EQ tank number 2, the work there continues. With the interior shotcrete is done. The exterior shotcrete and the wire wrapping around the exterior has begun on that one. We completed the dissolved air flotation thickeners building, the DAFT building, and Crowder started installation of interior mechanical and electrical components there. There's a lot of work going on at the main pump station at the moment. We decommissioned existing aeration basin 4. That is the next one in line. So we started from 5, we're going to 4 and then to 3. So we decommissioned it and Crowder began excavation in front of it for the aeration basin number 4 upgrades there. And the interceptor building is nearly finished at this point. Hopefully within the next month, we're finished there. But a lot of the interior features are going into it now. So as far as the next month goes, Crowder will continue pre-stressing wire and shotcrete at EQ tank number 2. They'll continue work at the DAF building and at the interceptor building. Continuing that excavation at anoxic basin number 4 and the concrete restoration inside the existing aeration basin 4. Pipe installation surrounding our influent pumps in our main pump station. This piping, these valves are original to the plant. We're putting some larger pumps down in there, so we'll have a new set of valves and 2 new pumps there as well once we're done with that. And then continuing rehabilitation of our existing secondary clarifiers also. So moving on to a couple collection system projects. Lower Cottle Creek Parallel Interceptor is underway. This is going from the Rocky River Road area, up towards Roberta Road, kind of that general area of things there. The contractor has installed about 4,800 feet of 48-inch pipeline so far. They have mobilized a 3rd crew, so they had crews 1 and 2 within their workforce. They brought in a subcontractor with a 3rd crew for 3 total, that is, to assist them with pipe installation. So they are going to continue with that pipe installation, and drilling and blasting work is continuing for that as well. Back Creek Parallel Interceptor. This is, so far they have installed approximately 6,800 feet of, this one is 36-inch pipe. They have completed bores at Raging Ridge Road and Hickory Ridge Road. Hickory Ridge Road is kind of the upstream end of this work for them. Our blasting consultant has completed pre-blast inspections along the alignment, and we're continuing to work with Black and Beach and with Park, who is doing the installation work on this project. So they're going to continue installation of that 36-inch line and then restoration efforts along the alignment as well. So moving on, this is a rehab project along some existing sections of the Rocky River interceptor for us. HDR is working on design for this so far. They have completed all the manhole inspections along the alignment. This is a really swampy area, a lot of difficult access through this, so they did a great job getting that done. We have completed some camera inspections for the inside of the pipe of accessible pipe segments, areas that our equipment and our technology was capable of getting to along the Rocky River. And so they are working with a company, HDR is working with a company called Sewer AI. They're reviewing that CCTV footage, the manhole inspections, and they're coding that. They're determining future improvements that will be in the plans and specifications that we should receive in a couple months here. And they have subcontracted with Duke's Root Control to perform some additional CCTV and sonar inspection in some of the most difficult spaces to reach along this line. And so next steps, Duke's is going to continue with that CCTV and sonar inspection, and HDR is going to continue with development of their plans and specs. So moving on to the master plan and MPDES permitting, this is really the MPDES permitting effort at this point. We did receive some updated speculative limits for the Rocky River plan from DEQ for 36 MGD and 45 MGD. And so we had requested those a while back. We had a call with the state back in June on these, and that's kind of when the idea of nutrient limits had been swirling around with the state. We had heard some things, and so they finally came back. And right now, the way this stands, we have nutrient limits at both 36 and 45 MGD. And so their rationale for this is the impairment of Blewett Falls Lake, which is downstream. And so they say for any expansion beyond current permitted flows within the basin, they are pursuing that across the board per EPA guidance. And so along with this, Black and Veatch has continued their work on the engineering alternatives analysis, or EAA. They will submit that draft EAA to us for review. Looks like that should be within the next couple weeks. We, along with Black and Veatch and Brown and Caldwell, who is working on the wastewater treatment facilities plan, we're continuing to consider the impacts of those nutrient limits and coordinate with conceptual design for Rocky River pieces in the wastewater treatment facilities plan. And so following our review and any changes to the EAA, we'll submit that to DEQ, to the state for review. And then following DEQ's approval of the EAA, all the acronyms in here, we'll submit the permit application to get those formal limits pages at 36 MGD and 45 MGD. And so kind of the big development here is the speculative limits have been updated. They have come in. We were hoping and kind of expecting maybe not to have limits for nutrients at 36 MGD. We knew 45 MGD, that was probable. So we're kind of figuring out that strategy and working with Brown and Caldwell and Black and Veatch on that now. So Chad, I don't know if you want to say anything on
the big impacts at 36 to summarize is that was essentially going to be a re-rating of the plant, some upgrades, but mainly just a re-rating of the plant. Nothing really treatment capability improvements, which means that it would be highly unlikely that we would be able to meet those nutrient limits at 36 MGD with just a simple re-rating. So we've got several paths that we can consider to take here that we're going to be considering. One would be to move some of the equipment that was going to be associated with the 45 MGD expansion, move some of that forward into the 36 expansion, which would lower the 45 expansion cost some, but increase the 36. Okay, that's one option. Another option is to go to the state and request what was the wording they used? A compliance schedule.
right.
And so basically a compliance schedule that say, we're going to do this project with the fact that this project's going to immediately follow. So while this project is complete, once this project's complete, the smaller portion of it, we're not going to be able to meet these nutrient limits. But the project is funded and underway that will allow us to ultimately, and we ask that you give us 5 years or whatever, that block of time that we commit to getting to where we meet those limits. I think that's probably our most likely path that we end up trying to go down on that. The third option is to request, say, we will do nutrient limits at 36, but we ask kind of for some more lenient limits until we get to 45. So maybe a less of a concentration. So instead of 15 milligrams a liter, we want 22 milligrams per liter until we get to that 45. So right now we're really trying to analyze internally those impacts, but then also trying to measure the likelihood of success with the negotiations with the state. So I don't think it's necessarily the sky's falling type of a situation we're in. It just made it a little more complicated than if they would have been agreeable to saying nutrient limits don't come in effect till after 36 MGD. So
I get, you don't probably have an estimate yet on the equipment cost to, if you had to do it in the short term, are you working on that, or do you have a?
We have a rough allowance that Brown and Caldwell has given us so far. And that's just from their document that went all the way to 54 MGD. So their rough allowance for that was $70 million, which is substantial, but it was that's a very rough number.
Yeah.
They were working on refining that, because this kind of all hit in the middle of that alternatives analysis phase, of the project. Even with the idea of it hit kind of in that. So that's where they just kind of, they put that in as sort of a reason, what they believe to be a reasonable placeholder. And they are working on their conceptual design for Rocky River now with those denitrification filters in, which is the bulk of the cost. In terms of the concrete and the equipment to install, to do that. They're working on that cost now and that conceptual design as part of their continuing work, and they should deliver that conceptual design in December is what they're expecting.
So it sounds like we're not gonna be able to make the 36 decision separate apart from the bigger decision. Those are the numbers staring at us. I mean, that's a pretty hefty expenditure if we never did the big expansion, or not for a number of years.
correct, but we're also, we need to recognize that we're looking at being towards the backside of completing phase 4 before we even really know whether that 36 is 35 and a half, or is it 36 and a half, or is it 36, exactly what it is, till we get down the road a little bit. So we're really just in a really weird time right now where there's a lot of unknowns that we've really got to kind of pull together and get lined out. But I do think there's a path forward. The state has indicated so far that the willingness to want to work with us, and to be, I think, what I would classify as reasonable in this decision-making process. So I think we can find a path. There is a significant precedence for compliance schedules when doing things like this. It wouldn't be us showing up asking for something that's unusual or a challenge to obtain. So I don't think we would be asking for anything.
If that compliance schedule wasn't an option, do you have any idea on the time frame as to how that would shift? Because I know a re-rate was kind of like, I won't say a flip of the switch, right? But there was a little bit more of an immediacy, that kind of thing. Do you have any idea what that difference might be?
The good thing is, whatever we're looking at building, it's new construction. We're not going in and retrofitting something. So it's one of those items that you can get in there and you can construct a little bit quicker. That is a positive versus having, like, when we're upfitting all the basins and stuff. So I don't think you taking a 1-year project and making it 4 years. You may be taking a 1-year project, making it 2 years. But, I think that's probably a reasonable statement to make.
What was that estimated cost that we talked about in the previous meeting on the 2 MGD for this kind of minimal upgrade?
Like 30 to $40 million.
Now it could be 100 million.
It could, but then that would take money off of
Yeah, right. But
the 45.
we have to be fairly confident we're gonna
Correct.
do that in the future.
Correct. And as we get more into it, we may find that we can do part of that 70 million. That would do enough nitrification to get into where we can stay in compliance. We don't have to do it all. That there's still a lot that has to be flushed out there. But I think we're going to have a number of options.
And there are 2 nutrients in question here, one being nitrogen and one being phosphorus. The nitrogen limits, the phase 4 work actually already enables us to do some total nitrogen removal already. That's how these basins are designed. It does not allow us to get down to the levels that we would need for compliance with the speculative limits at 36 MGD as they stand right now. And so that's good news that we're part of the way there, kind of with work we're doing already. Phosphorus is simpler in nature. It is chemical tanks and pumping chemicals to make phosphorus fall out with the sludge. And then, the phosphorus comes out of the water and it's in the sludge at that point.
The spec limits at 45 still put us, the cost estimates we've been using still puts us right on.
There was nothing unusual. The cost estimates that were presented before did not have for sure nutrient limits in it, because that was back in May. So the $70 million that Thomas was talking about right now is kind of being held as until we got these spec limits, as a placeholder that would be above that. So you're looking at maybe 10% more than what we were talking about before, potentially. All that will be flushed out better when they kind of complete this conceptual design.
Yeah, and again, to underline the point, the 70 million, with the speed this came up and kind of the time frame within the reports that came up, that 70 million was really a placeholder for them to try to have a safe number. And they are working on a more site-specific, application-specific number for us there.
So is there an actual change in the nutrient limit between 36 and 45?
No, so
Or is it just additional equipment to maintain that previous limit?
sure. So that's a good question. So the equipment we're talking about would handle nutrients downstream of our existing plant. So if we had phase 4 built out completely today and we had nutrient limits, the new equipment, the denitrification filters, would take out nitrogen rather, to the levels needed for our existing basins that we already have. And so that would be the 36 MGD out of 45. For 45, since they know that we'll have nutrient limits at that point, they are looking at a different biological process where you don't need the denitrification filters. All the total nitrogen removal happens in the tank, in the aeration basin. And it's a little different approach, but you're taking out nitrogen either way. The chemical phosphorus removal will apply across the board.
And what they're looking to do is they're looking to hold us to the amount of total nitrogen that we have been discharging to the river over the last, 4 years?
Yes, they looked at 4
So they
historical.
looked at total poundage of nitrogen that we have been discharging to the river over the last 4 years and said, we're going to hold you there. So as you expand and as you discharge more flow, you have got to reduce your concentration to still meet that poundage limit. So the concentration at 36 will be higher than the concentration at 45, then would be high, and it would be even lower at 54 because we're going to be held to that poundage of discharge to the river.
That reading's taken at discharge?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Taking it the discharge of the plant, effluent.
And are they recommending to us the treatment modality that is necessary to maintain these levels? Or is it something that we have found, or is this a common problem that's being solved in 25 other locations and we're just jumping on the bandwagon?
Sure. Well, lots of folks are required to do total nitrogen removal. That is not new, really at all. It is new. It's a new idea for our basin. And so I think they're looking at a 4-stage Bart-and-Foe arrangement. That's just the name of the process for the 45 MGD expansion. And because we've got basins in the configuration we do for the existing basins, the denitrification filters would be the best option to remove the additional nitrogen we need to remove in those.
I guess my question was related to if we are working with or using some technology that they are recommending, there's less likely to be some uncertainty on their behalf as to what the numbers need to be when we finally get there. So it's easier if they've already done it before and we can just jump on and be a part of it.
Sure, other folks are using similar technologies, and the levels that we're talking about, even at 54 MGD, are not the lowest levels to any sort of limit of technology. They're certainly achievable limits. It just takes the equipment and the chemicals to do it.
I did confirm with the state and had them confirm to me that this is basin wide for the Rocky River Basin. Any permit limit any permit that requests an increase in discharge amount will have nutrient removal on it. At this point, they're not going into any existing permits and requiring them to start meeting nutrient limits. So Muddy Creek, we have a 1 MGD permit there. That's in hand. We have that. There is no nutrient limits there. There won't be any nutrient limits there. If we were to go and request a 2 MGD permit, then we would have nutrient limits at that point. And that is basin-wide, whether you're Charlotte Water, WSACC, Monroe, doesn't matter. That is basin-wide.
Sounds like it might be significant maintenance costs once we're to that point and we have these systems up and running.
It can be, when you're looking at the chemical feed from the phosphorus removal standpoint, yes, it does add O&M cost for sure. Yes, it does.
And there will be a chemical feed component, to the nitrogen removal as well. And there's potential for some pumping there. The filters themselves have minimal power costs, but we probably run out of gravity at some point and have to pump it back, once we get there.
This is small potatoes compared to the nutrient limits, but back on the Rocky River rehab, I saw those maps correctly. A portion of that runs through south of the airport, runs through a conservation easement.
Okay.
So will the work have any effect on the area around the lines?
So it shouldn't really, the rehab work, especially the manhole coating, which is what we've seen the need for, or the most need for so far, I guess. Okay, Kevin's nodding at me, that's good. So the manhole coating is what we've seen the most need for so far. That can be handled off the back of a Polaris or a pickup truck. That's not so invasive. If we get to the point that we're lining sections of pipe manhole to manhole, which we haven't really seen based on the work so far, a need to do too many of those. If we get to that point, that is more equipment coming in. So we will be sensitive and work with that as needed, but.
And honestly, in the past, there has been some outflow there, so it's probably improving the situation.
Sure, and so we're trying to keep the system tight as far as water coming in. A lot of that is a really swampy area. A lot of wetlands, a lot of creeks and streams through there. So we're just trying to keep that system tight through there. I think we have one more project. And so we've talked about some of these components already with the wastewater treatment facilities plan and PER. In the past couple months, we have received and reviewed several technical memoranda from Brown and Cobble, some at the Rocky River plant for the incinerator condition assessment and capacity, the expansion alternatives that George presented a couple months ago here, that formal TM, the hydraulic model updates for the Rocky River, along with the Muddy Creek wastewater plant expansion alternatives analysis, and the Mount Pleasant pump stations review as well. The next steps for that really relate to conceptual design. So for Muddy Creek, that's the expansion to 0.66 MGD. We expect that conceptual design draft to come to us in the next couple weeks for review. So there'll be some review time, some back and forth. And then we'll have conceptual design for that completed once that review time frame is up and completed there. Rocky River expansion to 54 MGD. Again, they're including those 36 and 45 MGD tiers along the way. And so they expect to have that to us by the end of this year. So I think that was it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
Questions, updates? Okay, Thomas, you still have the floor to talk about wastewater flow acceptance.
Sure. So it's got a short presentation for that as well, many slides. We do a couple different updates typically during the year for wastewater flow acceptance. One at the beginning of the year, one in the middle of the year. The mid-year updates went out on July 22nd of this year. So just here to talk about those for a couple minutes. First off, kind of the different types of updates that we do. So we can update these for project level conditions. So there's a subdivision with 100 homes. And in the last 6 months, the developer or contractor has built 50 of those and they're occupied at this point. And so that's based on, that's an example, based on input from member jurisdiction staff for every single project. We've got a row in a spreadsheet for every single project with flow acceptance that isn't yet fully tributary to either plant. Some other updates that we consider are calendar year flow updates. This is only for the end of year, the January updates, based on previous calendar year actual average flow at either plant. And the final update, which is just more conditional on when a capacity expansion is completed, is a capacity update, and that's when additional capacity is available for allocation from an expansion at one of the plants. So our two typical update timeframes, we do the January updates. Again, those include both the project level updates and the previous calendar year flow. And then we do July updates, which include project level updates only because we don't have a full calendar year of flow, which is what NCDEQ requires to update the yearly flow. I'll dive into that a little bit for each plant. First for Muddy Creek. So for example, in 2024, the annual average flow there was 0.197 MGD. And then when we did the mid-year updates, got with City of Concord on that. And so the estimated not yet tributary flow to the Muddy Creek through that time frame was about 23,000 gallons or 0.023 MGD. So if you add together the historical flow that's actually in the pipe and the estimated flow that's not yet tributary, that's 0.22 MGD or 220,000 gallons per day. And yes, sir.
It's at 330?
It's at 300 right now. So 300,000 right now, which is what this slide shows. So the top line here is the capacity of the plant, the 0.3 MGD or 300,000 gallons per day. The conceptual design for that plant would take it to 0.66 MGD or 660,000 gallons per day. So within that, we've got two bars or two stack bars here. One for the January 2025 update, another for the most recent update in July. You can see that the calendar year flow, the orange bar on the bottom, didn't change because the calendar year, we don't have another full calendar year yet. And so that's 0.197 for both. The developer controlled capacity, again, those project level updates, that changed just slightly here from 0.024 to 0.023. There are a number of homes in construction as well, but these count once they're complete and occupied. And so that the difference between those and whatever the plant capacity is in the gray bar there. And the gray bar is the available capacity for allocation. And so that changed again just slightly from 79,000 gallons per day to 80,000 gallons per day.
In that example, is that maybe a development that went dark and that capacity went back to the jurisdiction?
No, so this is actually from that flow coming online. So the difference in the two blue segments there, the developer controlled capacity, are actually projects that have come online or houses that have come online and been occupied within that 6-month time frame.
But they didn't affect the underlying flow.
Not yet.
So that's what I was confused.
Yeah.
Ours wasn't changing.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
So they will allow us to adjust to do these sort of adjustments about once every 6 months, which is what we've settled into.
Sort of in purgatory kind of.
Right.
You can calculate, okay.
But we argued for a rolling average look at the calendar year flow. A year doesn't have to be January to December. The state uses a strict calendar year from January to December. And so that's why it turns out this way for the July updates each time. So have a similar table for Rocky River because Rocky River is among several member jurisdictions and Charlotte Water. The memo is longer, there are more tables, there's more math involved. But what this table shows, and that all these tables and graphs are part of the memos that went out in mid-July. What this table shows is for each member jurisdiction, the amount that is currently available for allocation with WSACC. And so kind of the point of clarification at the bottom here is that member jurisdictions submit those flow acceptance requests to WSACC after all the preliminary approvals, design, all of that at the member jurisdiction level have been completed. And so those values in that far right column there do not include impacts from projects that have preliminary sewer allocation or in some other kind of preliminary state of review at the member jurisdiction level. But this is just what's available for that kind of final stage of formal allocation with WSACC.
Just as a point of clarity, this does not include any capacity associated with phase 4.
Right. This is capacity available through phase 3, which is where we are currently operating. And so we have a similar graph for Rocky River. So again, stack bars, the 2024 Cabarrus County portion of the average daily flow is shown here, 17 million gallons per day and a little bit of change. Developer controlled capacity is shown in the blue again. And so you can see the developer controlled capacity actually went up during that time. The net result was an increase. So there were projects that came online, but there was a lot of flow acceptance requests that came in as well. And so that's where kind of you get the net increase in developer controlled capacity in that 6-month period. And then the balance of that is the jurisdictional controlled capacity, which is in that top gray piece. Again, the 22.6, which is that top dashed blue line, is where we are for Cabarrus County relative to phase 3 or 30 MGD. That number will go up once we are at the 34 MGD tier.
So remind me, where this actual flow comes into play here.
Sure. So if we had the same graph and we were sitting in January of 2026, and so instead of January 2025 on the one side, we have July of 25, and then we have January of 26. The orange bars there would be different heights for that one. Those would be different values because we would have the actual flow from 2024 in one bar, the actual flow from 2025 in the adjacent bar.
Right. Which actually plays a role in available capacity.
It does. So if we have an especially dry year or an especially wet year, that, you know, all those numbers have to add up to the top dashed line. And so the orange bar is what we report to the state. And, you know, that's actual measured flow that comes through.
Right.
Which right now for this calendar year is very similar to where we were at this point last year. We're very close to where we were previous year.
What's the split for the remainder?
The split, the percentages for.
Well, I mean, we have what, 7.4 MGD, some of that's Charlotte, some of it's the weather hold back.
Oh, sure.
MGD is Charlotte water.
Oh, sure, okay.
Yes. Yes, sir. So the 22.6 plus 7.4 gives us to the 30 overall for phase.
You know, and I'm sure, I don't need an exact, but do you know how much of that they're actually flowing? I know they've bought that, or are they?
Charlotte?
Yeah.
They're at about 5.
They flowed right at 5 MGD last year. They were actually down a little bit versus the year before. I can't remember how much they've got allocated at the moment, but they were within that 7.4.
They're allocated with.
That was, I think that was it for that one. Be happy to take any other questions you might have.
Any other questions for Thomas? Good job. Thanks for the update. Okay, we have a little fairly quick work session, I believe, just to talk about the expansion alternatives. So Chad, I'll turn it over to you.
Right. Really just got 2 kind of main points to bring up and talk about today with this. First being one item of feedback I've got from several jurisdictions is basically kind of centered around the discussion of the phase 4 capacity of kind of maybe trying to move that forward. So the jurisdictions through these planning processes have a true solid feeling of exactly what's coming their way from the phase 4. I think it's been discussed. It's kind of been assumed that that would be handled on the 5-year historic rolling average flows because that's how it's being funded at this point, but wanted to get the board's opinion on moving forward with that, understanding that that would take agreement among the board, then William developing the interlocal agreements, then would have to go to all the jurisdictions for approval. So I think it's a thing, if we move forward in the next month or two, that we would probably be towards the end of the year, first of next year, till that was, those interlocal agreements were recognized at that point. And at that point, that flow, if the board decided, could be released to the jurisdictions as outlined in that interlocal agreement. So if that's something we feel comfortable moving forward with, then we could put together with the 5-year flow, what that breakout, what that distribution would look like potentially for next month's meeting for further discussion, or we can have open it for discussion now.
Is there any indication there would be a significant change?
What do you mean by the?
5-year historical flow?
No, the historical flow, I mean, they'll move slightly each year, but rarely is it more than 1/10% or,
Since we all locked our allocation in,
Yeah,
it's impossible for.
yeah, it all stays pretty, especially when you're looking at 5 years of rolling average, there. Just in the past, there's been circumstances where we've allocated additional amounts to some members and we've done different things. That would be the biggest thing that we would want
I mean,
to.
are you anticipating that we'll need to have that kind of discussion about a change in the formula?
I have
This
not.
is Opening it up.
Yeah.
I think we're trying to present this as we're trying to make this decision now. And the chunk that we will all get in 27, when you look at the financials of that next expansion is critical in factoring in how long it's going to take to get to that 2040 planning horizon. And I think just some confidence of us going to our board and understanding that we should be close to that. I mean, there are things, we got a project in Mount Pleasant that we've divvied out for in the past. I think that's all that stuff is still on the table. I think we're just trying to understand what generally is going to be used so that we can have some confidence, because it's probably the most valuable piece of information that we need to know. Because if it's going to be significantly less or a different formula, then that will change our number that we come back with, if that makes sense.
I'm gonna repeat what I said last time. If anybody's willing to take less, now's the time to say it. Otherwise, it just needs to stay with that 5-year, right? If one of the jurisdictions is like, I don't want at the minimum of my 5-year allocation, then we'll take it. But I think everybody wants their allocation, because every jurisdiction would have to sign off on any change to that current agreement. And so somebody's thinking they got too much sewer up to 34. I'm very comfortable keeping it with the current allocation. After 34, I think we need to open it to this more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't see it changed up to 34. I don't even know that that's worthy of any discussion unless I'm missing something. But beyond that, yeah, absolutely. I think we've got to reach conclusions, and I'm not sure that's going to be an easy task in a really short, at least from Annapolis' perspective, to be able to answer that question like in a month. We're about to embark on an update on our water and sewer master plan. It's going to take several months. We are going to fast track it for this purpose, but we're going to ask City Council Monday for some funding to do that. But we've got some internal things too. How much flow can we handle in our internal system without improvements? So it's bigger than just what WSACC treats in our situation, and maybe it is for others too, but there's some really major questions. So I don't know that we're going to struggle coming to the table with we need X amount when we go to 48, whatever we need to.
Well,
45.
and to clarify again here, I'm just talking about phase 4 that's underway, funded, being constructed right now, nothing beyond that.
To Mike's point though, like that's a difficult decision, and it would be even more difficult if we didn't have that information.
Yes.
At least for us anyway. So I think
So what I would recommend is I will send out, or we'll send out this month in the next week or two, I'll get with Wendy and we'll send out what that, if we use the 5-year flow, what that distribution will look like. We'll have that on the agenda for next month's meeting to be discussed. If any jurisdiction in here has a project or a reason that they would want to deviate from that calculation, then bring that to that meeting for discussion. But I think the assumption, or I would expect it to be, that we just follow that 5-year flow unless something, an extenuating circumstances presents itself by a jurisdiction.
Mr.
And
Chair.
we can move that forward. Yes.
Just want to make a comment, and we're very early in some discussions with economic development. There's a potential project looking at Mount Pleasant. We know what the water needs are. We have not identified the sewer needs. Be $100 million project and 400 jobs. So I will know more by the September meeting. We do not think it's going to be a significant sewer demand, pretty significant on the water side, which we can manage, but I'll have more information at the September meeting. If we're able to pull that off, that will be the biggest project Mount Pleasant has ever landed. So just give you a heads up. I don't have a lot of information to share right now, but it's very early in the process.
Thank you, Randy. So we'll put that together and send that out, and then hopefully that's something that we could do. Because irregardless of what we do, we've got to do a new interlocal agreement, correct?
Yeah, an amendment to the existing one. Yeah, so we will have to do one for the 30 to 34, even if we keep the formula the same. But that will make it, I think, a lot simpler for the city councils and the county commission to understand it.
And to write it up.
We went ahead and drafted it based on that, so we have a draft. It's a simple 2-page amendment, but we'll move forward with that or not after the September meeting.
And I don't think that ties us to when that's passed by 5, that has to be divvied out to the jurisdictions at that moment. It would still be up to the board to decide we want to do that in February, or we want to do that in July, or when the board chooses for that capacity to become live. But that would, at least that would be out of the way, and through this decision-making process, the jurisdictions would feel comfortable what's coming their way ultimately.
So we've already met the requirement into phase 4, that once that would be complete, that we could release it.
Yes.
Okay. And what is that? What's
2
that
years.
percentage? 2 years? So it's a timeline, it's not.
The timeline. Okay. The second thing I had was, not to put anyone on the spot, but kind of wanted to ask for everybody to give a really quick update of how things are going, or what do you need, or I'd basically just kind of make sure things are moving, and that we're still kind of on a timeline to have a decision. And again, if we have a decisions in November or January, or it's not that, we're not against a hard deadline, but I want to make sure we're moving and that you have everything you need from WSACC to help you. So.
Well, I think I just gave you our ed date. I mean, I don't see any change up to 34 phase 4. I think for our standpoint, that's something that's already been allocated, at least at a high level, or accounted for. But going beyond the 34, I think this new wrinkle with, if we go to 36, what does that look like? That could be a more immediate discussion we all have to have. But until we get our master plan updated here in the next several months, that's going to be tough for us to. But I think we have everything we need. We just got have a little time to get that done, and we're ready to make some decisions. I think that's where we are.
Yeah. So we've talked to our board once, really from the perspective of what data are you going to need to make this decision? And I think that ended up being a very good decision to not lay all that stuff at their feet on day one. So we had really good discussion, been scrambling for the month, getting all that information together. The council now has that information that we talked about and they requested, and the idea is later this month, we'll meet with them again to start digesting that information and seeing if we're any closer. We've done some financial projections, some rate model work, and this is that collision of what we need to move forward and how you're gonna pay for it, right? And I think that's where we're gonna spend a lot of time trying to figure out what is the if we could have a lot of sewer for free, we'd take it, right? But that's not the reality. So you got to figure out where that sweet spot is to keep things moving, but also understand that there's a limit to the what the ratepayers can ultimately afford to pay for. So
I'll knock on wood and say we're in a little further ahead because we did our water and wastewater master plans last year. And so we coming in with a little better, more updated data. And we've already sent over every preliminary allocation that we think are good projects that we would approve if we had it. But we've had a couple of, all of our efforts right now, I'd say, most of our energy is focused at economic development and industry, right? Harrisburg is a single family home tax base, right? 80%, 85%. And most of the big sewer users are in that industrial area. So we've had a few that aren't on your list that are mega users that are realistic possibilities for us. So I don't think there are, I don't think we're ever going under that number that we showed, and we're now working on that financial model. What does that look like? It actually looks pretty good for us from a ratepayer standpoint. So, my takeaway is, I think our number that we've given already is pretty good. Some will fall off, some will come on, but I think that's a bottom line number, and we'll be able to pay for that proportional share. But it looks different for every jurisdiction. So I'm eager to see what everybody's end number looks like. And because if that falls somewhere in between a build, I think that becomes problematic, right? Like we can build up to 45, and then the next one's 9 million more. Well, what if we need 2 million? Like that's going to become an issue. The sooner we identify that, I think the better. But from a data standpoint, we're ahead of the curve on that.
Randy, anything you want to add from Mount Pleasant?
So we're finishing up the update to our comprehensive plan. We should have that complete by next month. So we have a pretty good idea of what our needs are. The project that I just mentioned did catch us off guard in a positive way. So I'll have some more information about that at the September meeting. But right now, WSACC has been very cooperative, and we're in pretty good shape having an idea of what we're going to need.
Well, thank you. I didn't mean to put everybody on the spot there, but it sounds like everyone's moving along, and I understand it's a tough path to get down to, and it's big decisions to be made. So I think the more discussion we can keep open, the better off we'll be.
It's also helpful for us to know what everybody else is doing and where they are, right? I mean, Jeff and I've talked about that before of like, are we on target? Are we missing something? So that was a really helpful discussion to kind of know where everybody's at too. So thank you for that.
one follow-up, Chad, if I could. So we had some discussion, and regretfully I wasn't here last month, but about looking at the system development fee and any thoughts on what that looks like? I mean, I think that's probably going to come up as a really important piece of our discussion. The new industry, the new homes paying a larger proportion of potentially that cost. Any comments you can add on that?
You jumped ahead one item on.
Wonderful.
Part of my moving into comments from the executive director. We have engaged Raf Tellis and to do a system development fee study for WSACC. It was about a $35,000 cost to engage them there. Big things they're going to need is the CIP, which is something we're working on every day. And it's something that will be in your inboxes, a draft CIP before the next board meeting, because that will be a big discussion item for us at the next board meeting. So we're planning on getting you the CIP and project write-ups prior to that meeting, so you can really kind of try to digest some of the things that are on there. It's a challenge because on our CIP, we've always tried to identify where we anticipate funding to come from. where we anticipate the timing of those. And there's a lot of that that's unknown right now, but we've tried to do the best we can to identify that. So kind of tying those two things together will be important over the next couple of months for us to achieve that approved CIP through the board that then Ralph Tillis will use. I think our anticipation is that they will be to us in the fall with the results of that, that we can start digesting of what do we think that system development fee is going to look like. I think we know it's going up. I think it'll be a question for the board of to what level we go to on that.
Well, I think that's something we all need to be on the same page. That's part of our master plan that we're gonna be doing in the next several months is have Wildan, which is a Ralph Tellis light company, to do that for us. And you know, what can the development community, what can they withstand, and what is too much? And, you know,
Yep.
But we're gonna have to pass some of these costs along to the development community. I mean, that's just part of the reality of this kind of big project. Ratepayers can't pay for it all. You have to find that right balance. But what WSAC charges and what the jurisdiction charges, those things together is the real impact. We just can't lose sight of that we need to work together on what that looks like.
So our goal is to try to move forward so that if we want to adopt a new system development fee in the beginning of 26 or the beginning of the 26, 27 fiscal year, that we will be prepared and able to do that. So we have started that moving forward. And again, the CIP, it's going to be more extensive than the CIP's been in the past. There's a lot going on, a lot of projects on that CIP, both treatment but also collections side of things, pump station related. So like I said, the plan is to send that out at least the Monday before the board meeting, if not late the week before. So you have an opportunity to at least skim through that and start digesting that a little bit before you come into the meeting. Any questions on any of that? The last thing I have is some really good news. Received word a couple weeks ago that our phase 3 project has received 2 additional awards. These 2 are national awards through the Design Build Institute of America. The first is the DBI National Merit Award, and I'm just reading here from the little printout. They say it's one of the most prestigious honors in the industry. It's given to projects that exemplify design build best practices, collaboration, innovation, and a commitment to delivering exceptional value to the community. Out of the projects across all sectors, so this is not just a water, wastewater award. This is across all 9 sectors that DBIA oversees. We also were selected as a DBIA Outstanding Owner Award. This really looks at and comes from strong input from your contractor and your engineer about the way that we've led the project and supported the project, funded the project, made decisions through the project. And I think it's just a really thing for us to step back. We live this project, like we're in it every day. We see it, we talk about it every month. And I think we can somewhat take for granted just how successful this project was to be right in the post-COVID environment, to be completed on schedule, to be completed almost 10% under budget, was a huge, with no safety issues on the project whatsoever. Just it was a huge success, and we continue to win awards for those projects. So once we receive those awards in November, the National Merit Award, we're one of 5 winners of that. There will be one top winner of that we will find out in November at that awards ceremony. So we will be back later this fall with those awards to present to the board. But again, thank you to the board for the support of the project, for the willingness to step out and try a different delivery method to deliver this project. And probably most important, thanks to the WSACC staff and the willingness and the hours and the effort they put in to make this a seamless project with our contractor and our engineer.
Kudos to everybody involved. Good job. Thank you. Any other updates?
That's it.
All right. Open up the meeting for any public comments. Is there anybody here who wish to speak to the board on any matter? Now, And hearing none, we need a closed session. Do I hear a motion to go into closed session under GS 143-318-11 A1 and A6?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Closed session.